I've been using the M1 Macbook Air for almost a month now as my primary device with all the work and stuff, and wanted to share my user experience, also talking about some of the things you should know before getting this one. So if you are new to the channel, subscribe and also like this video guys. Let's begin. So let's start with the swap memory, because a lot of people look to buy the base model for its value for money and a little confused about the swap memory and its long-term effect on the SSD. So in this instance, while I was editing in Final Cut, you can see the swap memory easily goes around 6 GB. Personally, I'm not bothered much, but if you are and planning to do heavy workload like 4K editing and stuff, you may get the 16 GB, but from what I know, macOS does use a bit of swap memory regardless of the amount of RAM you have, so even on the 16 GB you may see the swap memory being used anyway, so it's only a matter of how much more or how much less. Another instance where I was just doing casual stuff using Safari and Chrome open with about a couple of tabs, and you can see that it's still using about half a gig. At this point I feel that the software, the Big Sur, could be optimized or improved for the M1 Max. Now let's talk about the performance. Now this is a beast of a machine, absolutely, but you can see here the scrubbing through the timeline in the Final Cut is stuttering. I did add a noise reduction effect almost 5 minutes ago for this little 3-minute project, so it is taking its own sweet time. Now I totally understand it's probably too much to expect, but this is where I feel it's a little overhyped, as if it is some sort of a supercomputer. Now this is just a 1080p footage, as you can see, so it's important to set your expectations right. Another instance where I just was doing some basic color correction with some transitions, titles, and it randomly started hanging a little bit, as you can see, and there's nothing heavy running in the background as well, so it does keep a beat from time to time. Now I absolutely do not mean to say that the performance is bad. In fact, I am pretty happy and pleased with the performance. Generally it performs really well and the export times are like really crazy. This video itself was edited with some custom LUTs and transitions and all the stuff, and this was done like really fast, so that is really impressive. So personally, this is more than what I ever expected from a MacBook Air. Another thing I wanted to talk about is the thermals. I mean, this has no fan, so it has no way to cool itself down. Now this is winter, so it generally stays around 30-40 degrees, but it's really interesting to see how this actually performs in the summers where the base temperatures are around 40 to 50 degrees Celsius, especially in countries like India. I tried running Cinebench multi-core back to back couple of times, and I did see a drop of about 8 to 10% in the performance. The second time while the Cinebench was running, I did notice that some of the components were getting around 80 to 90 degrees Celsius hot. I mean, it was not extremely hot to the touch, but I'm curious to find out how this is going to mitigate that heat in the summer. Apart from throttling and the dip in the performance, it's interesting to find out how it is going to affect the battery life in the long run as well. We do have these cooling pads in the market, but let's see if they can actually make a difference. Now the display is just amazing. Keeping aside the tech specs, I just love the colors on this one. Just look at the viewing angles. I mean, coming from my older non-Retina MacBook, this is a huge upgrade. It also supports the HDR, but when I tried the Prime Video, for some reason it did not work for me. But reportedly the Netflix 4K HDR works, but I personally haven't tested it. So for both content consumption and creation, it is pretty good. Also, I like the dual speaker setup for watching movies, but not really particularly for the music as such. Another important thing is the keyboard. I had absolutely zero issues with the keyboard so far. It's pretty good with decent travel as well, so no issues here. Alright, now let's talk about some of the issues or cons in the current state, at least as it stands. So let's talk about the iOS apps. Most of the apps are not available, and those that are available, for example this is an iPad app, I mean a game. It does not really seem to be well optimized for the Mac. You can see the screen, the bars. I mean, I feel it does take some time for developers to sort of port this to the Mac for a more optimized performance. I tried searching some of the apps that I use most on the iPhones or iPads, but most of them were not available. Another thing is the software compatibility. There are a lot of niche apps that are still not optimized for the Apple Silicon. They do still work with the Rosetta, but don't expect that optimized performance, obviously. And also I heard a lot of people talk about some incompatibility with a lot of plugins and some niche software, so make sure that whatever software that you use is actually available. If you're new to the Macs or coming from Windows, then you really have to live with this Dongle Life. I mean, personally, it is a pain for me and I'm still getting used to this, and it's really hard to kind of carry these dongles and stuff. It's definitely not convenient. Let's just hope all the things get adapted to the USB Type-C port. Now moving to the battery life, I'm really impressed here. Even with some editing for about 3 to 4 hours, I still get about 8 to 10 hours, which is really impressive. But if you use it mostly for casual use, then it should last you around 10 to 15 hours, which is just amazing. But you only get a 30-watt charging, which can be a little bit slower. I mean, it does take about 2 to 3 hours depending on what you're doing on the laptop or not doing anything. A 45-watt or 60-watt would have been better, but it's probably because it has no fan. Because of the thermals and heating, maybe this was degraded to 30-watt. So personally, I am pretty happy with the purchase. So anyway, that's been it, guys. If you found this video helpful, please like this video, also subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.